Hey, yes, you. Welcome back to Tea with the Kingmaker. I'm super, super excited to have you here, and I cannot wait for you to listen to all of our conversations, especially moving forward. But before I go on, I want to first apologize for the impromptu silence, life. Everything just happened spontaneously, and it took a while, but we're back, we're gaining back momentum, and we're able to run as we intended. So put on your seatbelts, the ride is about to get a little real here. I'll start today with a story, and this story is something that has happened to me. So when I first started interfacing with certain level of greatness, having really awesome people give me access into their space, into their lives, well, your girl got a little proud, and I felt like nobody could talk to me. People who had the access to me to speak to me before that time couldn't anymore because, I mean, how would you talk to greatness? How would you get across to greatness? How would you speak to me anyhow? I've left your league. I'm no longer with you. And it continued for a while until one morning God just spoke to me and he said, "You're becoming very proud. And if this is not fixed now, the future will be a disaster." And I paused because God calling me proud, I couldn't tell him he was lying. The devil is the one that lies, right? Not God. So having the one who does not lie tell you that something is wrong, you definitely know for sure that something was wrong. And so I came to this conclusion that greatness has a paradox. And that paradox is that no matter how high you go, you still have to remain under submission and under authority, and that humility cannot be lost as you rise. So it's like being on an elevator going up, but yet maintaining a level of being down at the same time as you're going up. I know it sounds crazy even to picture, right? Being on an elevator that is down but up. um, and I thought about it and I realized that our generation, because we're not facing the same problems our parents faced, we're not facing the same burdens they faced. A lot of times we can feel like our challenges are different, our issues are different, and we shouldn't be bothered with the things that have happened to them or the experiences that they faced, or we feel so disconnected and so detached because I can do crypto and earn money, and I'm earning in dollars. I have a remote job. I earn more than my mom who sells, or my dad who is a civil servant. You know how it is, and we get ostentatious. We allow these things to enter into our heads. And so when our parents are speaking, we're looking at them like they're Jew. Is Jew still the word? Or has it changed? Because it changes every day. Have you noticed? Back to our conversation. So, um, realizing that, you know what, maybe I'm not as great as I thought. Maybe everything is not as perfect as I thought. Maybe I need to learn how to respond, how to grow, how to thrive in the midst of my family, in the midst of this season that I find myself. Maybe I need to realize that the way up is down, and that the way to stay up is to continue staying down and never going up, to be able to listen to the voices of my parents, my teachers, my contemporaries, and realize that irrespective of what I've achieved, I've not seen it all. And so I realized that this is actually a hard thing. And that's why I decided, let's talk about the paradox of greatness. Let's look at the other side of greatness, because many times we just want to pretend like it's not happening. We just want to pretend like, oh, I can skim through it. I can just go through it. I can just live through it. I don't have to um, think about it. It's a reflex, quote and unquote. But it's not such a reflex, is it? It's something that must be done intentionally. It's something that must be applied intentionally. And so, what's the significance of you staying down on your way up. I know that this may not sound um, as something that is very popular or a popular opinion, a popular perspective, but this actually reflects Christ. When we do this, we're actually showing that we're believers. I'm a Christian, and I'm sure that most of you listening to me right now are too. And one of the aims of Christianity is looking like the very one we profess that we're following. I mean, in the Bible, right? The disciples, the apostles were called Christians because they looked like Christ. They acted like him. They behaved like him. They were in conformity with his nature, with his likeness, with his reality. And for that reason, they were called Christian. We're supposed to follow men as they follow Christ, not just as they go off doing what they want to do. And so at the end of the day, we're coming to that reality that Jesus is the standard. If we look at the life of Jesus, we saw him intentionally submit to authority. You know, he said to John, listen, I understand that you're saying I'm greater than you. I get it. But to fulfill all righteousness, to ensure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, it may seem like I have more authority than you, that I have more influence than you do, that I've done more miracles than you've done. But at the end of the day, I need to be submitted to you to be able to reach even greater heights that I've been called to. And sometimes it's hard to look at somebody that you feel that you've done more than, you've reached more than, and stopping and looking at them and saying, at the end of the day, I need to do this, not for you, but for me at the end of the day. Like my humility, my submission to authority, my listening, my everything that I'm doing is for me. And so the first reason is because it makes us Christ like the basic core of Christianity. The second is actually the learning experience it brings. I believe that we are on a growth journey. We have never really arrived. It's not a destination, it's a continuous, it is consistent, and it is a delicate journey that we have to realize that I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly growing. Every time we sustain an attitude of humility, what we're saying is that we are allowing for continuous growth and improvement. Somebody once said that the biggest room on earth is the room for improvement. It means that continuously, consistently, there is that room to improve. There's that room to do better. There's that room to reach better. There's that room to do more. And as believers, our spiritual growth actually impacts every area of our life. So my spiritual father once said that what you do in one area is what you do in every other area. It means that if I acknowledge dependency on God, if I realize that He has put people my way to help me on my journey, I'm going to consistently remain teachable. I'm going to consistently learn that, okay, I should be asking questions. I should be growing. I should be doing better. I should be thriving. I should be becoming the person that He has called me to become, irrespective of the expectation that the world has for me. Like, I need to come to that place where I'm finding my voice, I'm finding my unique expression, I'm finding my identity, and I'm thriving in it. I'm not scared of the future, not because the future is not scary, but because, okay, I know the one that owns the future, number one. Number two, I can trust the one that owns the future. Number three, I realize that God's intention for me is always good. At no point does God wish me bad. At no point does God want to destroy me. And so all His instructions for me, are for my protection, are for my rising, are for my lifting. When I begin to look at life from those lenses, it causes you to have a level of strength that maybe you've not thought about having before, a level of understanding of what exactly it is that God has called you to do, right? So, and remember, it is the humble God gives grace. He gives grace to the humble. You have to realize that you need to come to that place of humility so that He not just teaches you, but He helps you and makes it easy for you to attain what He has for you. And number three is as a leader, to fully embrace servant leadership, you need to be humble. One of the things that humility does for you is that it brings you to that place of empathy, that place of compassion, that place of seeing life from the lenses of others, not from the selfishness of your perspective. And sometimes it's very easy to get selfish. I mean, there are times where I just want to eat and eat by myself and not leave for somebody else with me. I'm married. So just leaving food for my husband, even sometimes I forget. So don't judge me. Oops. Yes, but I forget. And forgetting doesn't mean I don't love him. It just means that sometimes our humanity of selfishness, our humanity of just being self-absorbed and um self-focused can actually hinder us a lot of the times. And guys, let's be real. It's hard for us to consider others in this day and time. It's hard for us to think about others in this day and time. It's hard for us to see the needs of others in this day and time, especially when we're surrounded with the seeming evil of humanity. But if we're going to be exceptional leaders, if we're going to be servant leaders, if we're going to affect the world and influence the world by our actions and our living, then we have to make that decision to be humble, to see people from the lenses of God, to not be driven by our self interest, and to focus on the needs of others. So, asking questions like, what do you need? How can I serve you? How can I help you? I know I'm this great person, but I'm coming off of my high horse and I'm asking you this real question of what can I do to be better for you? um and this also comes with influence. This comes with seeing yourself as this amazing person, celebrity. Many times we lose sight of the fact that we should be asking the people around us, how can I be better? How can I serve you better? We feel like they are there for us and not us for them, and that is not Christ-like. That is selfish in nature. When we post things on social media, we're not asking questions of the impact on the person on the other end of receiving what has been posted or seeing what has been said. And so we're living life from this place where we are self-sufficient. We feel that the world owes us. In fact, the word is entitlement. Oh my God. I think one of these days we're going to do a podcast on this whole subject of entitlement, because we can get very entitled. We can just get to this space where we're living all up in our space, where we feel like everybody owes us and we owe nobody anything. And that's a very big lie, because we owe the world, we owe our parents. And there's this very interesting thing that went viral on TikTok. Oh, just live for you and you alone. No, you don't owe anybody anything. Make your money, live your life. That is a very demonic agenda. It shouldn't even be on our radar. We shouldn't even really be thinking about it, because I mean, so you don't owe anybody, really? Everybody owes you, but you don't owe them. So if we all lived that way, if I believed the world owes me, I don't owe the world, I don't need to give back, I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to be all up in myself, all up in my space, living my quote and unquote best life. And then the other person thinks the same. The other person thinks the same. And now the whole world has gone mad. And we all believe, oh, the world owes me. You owe me. Yeah, you owe me. And nobody thinks about themselves. Nobody thinks about the fact that our consequences are like a drop of water that comes in a bucket that has been stable and releases a ripple effect. And so the consequences, the outcome of our actions should be thought about. It should be considered. It is something that we need to sit down and say, listen, this thing I'm doing, how is it affecting the world around me? The way I'm behaving, how is it affecting the people around me? The way I'm responding, how are people around me affected? So to come out of this place of entitlement, to come out of this place of believing that the world owes you, and serving your generation, and being in this place where you lay hold on the paradox of greatness, finding your voice and finding your strength in your journey. One of the things that you do is to be intentional about service. Um, the way up, like I said earlier, is down. So who are you serving? And I don't mean who are you serving as per your client that is paying you money. I mean, who are you serving? Like, who are you serving? For example, myself and my husband, we have various platforms of our mentors and our spiritual parents that we volunteer for, not because we cannot afford not to volunteer. We actually could. Our schedule can excuse us from volunteering, but to maintain a heart of humility, to remain consistently under authority, we volunteer. We intentionally put ourselves out there. We are constantly saying, okay, how can we serve you? How can we help your vision? How can we propel your vision? To put ourselves out there, because one of the things that happens in service is that your character is shown. Your true character is shown in the midst of circumstances and situations, especially when you're volunteering as a great person. And so, when your true character shows, there are times where you're going to drop the ball and get rebuked. When you look at yourself and you see, okay, how am I responding to being rebuked? How am I responding to being told that, oh, I dropped the ball, I messed up? How am I responding? Is my response arrogant? Is my response irritated? How am I feeling about what he said to me? When I begin to respond in a way that, oh, I'm feeling angry that I got rebuked. I'm feeling upset that I was told that I was wrong. Why is it that when I first started it didn't upset me and now it's upsetting me? Is there something in my heart that I need to work on? Because if we do not consistently check our hearts, check our motives, if we do not consistently work on ourselves and find ways to consistently improve, we're going to find out that we've gone through life selfishly. We've gone through life believing that the world doesn't owe us anything, but the world doesn't owe us anything, and we can just do whatever we want to do, irrespective of who we hurt along the way. And so it keeps us in check. Exposing ourselves through service absolutely keeps us in check. Um, Secondly, it also helps you to stay in the center of God's will. Um, so service, sorry, the first is service, then the second is realizing the center of God's will for you. Listen, guys, humility is God's will for you. God wants you to be humble. No matter what he does with you, no matter where he takes you, he wants you to be humble. He wants you to see life from his lenses. He wants you to kill that arrogance of believing that you've arrived and see life from the lenses of, I'm a work in progress. I mean, Jesus, as mighty as he was, right? Jesus did something. He said that I only do what I see my father do. I'm not doing it because it's popular. I'm not doing it because it's the trend. I'm not doing it because I feel it's right. I'm not doing it because it's going to get me attention. I only see and act as instructed. I don't live outside of instruction. In a world that we live in today, it's very easy for us to get carried away by the flamboyance of greatness and forget that instructions are God's way of protecting us. And that in God's instructions, yes, they are not suggestions, but He has given us free will as well, right? And one of the banes of free will is that I can do what I want, when I want, how I want, where I want, irrespective of who gets hurt in the way or who gets offended in the way. But what is the consequence? What is the future of that action? What is the outcome of that action? What is the action of me saying, oh, I'm my own man, I'm the man, I'm the woman, I'm the person, nobody can stop me, nobody can put me in check. There is a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is destruction. So it could look good, it could feel good, it could sound good, In fact, it could be good, but it could be destructive. I mean, terribly destructive. So, are we willing to submit ourselves to destruction at the risk of God's voice to us? Are we willing to submit ourselves to the limitations of our humanity and yielding to God to empower us for who He has called us to be, how He has called us to be, where He has called us to be? God's voice protects, guys. And it's hard to believe sometimes because some of his instructions can be like leftish, ridiculous, and it's like, how does this even benefit my future? How does this not make me look like a total idiot considering who I am? But man, if you follow God, the world will be in awe of who He makes you. If you follow God, the world will literally have to stand at attention at who you're becoming, because the beauty of who you're becoming, it's going to be such a pleasurable experience for everyone who knows you to want to participate and to want to be a part of, to not want to be left on the sidelines of, to literally want to enjoy front ticket seats to. Everybody's going to want to be connected to you, and you're going to look like this fool, this careless person. When you begin, you're going to look ridiculous sometimes, heeding to God's speakings. But trust me, it's one of the best decisions you could ever make. So the way up is down. Yeah, the way up is down. Greatness is great. Greatness is so great. But you gotta let go and let God. You gotta really yield to Him and let Him work stuff out in you, even when you don't feel good. And you've got to be submitted to the authorities of people that He has placed over your life. um Even knowing that sometimes you're bigger than them, you may know better ways than them, you may have seen more of the world than they have thought they saw or thought they experienced. You have access to Google, you have access to AI and chat GPT, Gemini, and all of that. You have access to it, and they probably all they know is Facebook and WhatsApp. But just follow, submit. Greatness is very expensive, but you can get it cheaply if you keep your head down. I love you, and until I come your way next time, thank you so much for hanging with me. And I'm going to see you at the next episode of Tea with the Kingmaker. Until then, bye for now, guys.